Hello everybody, and welcome to this webinar, which is organized by Seidat. Our title today is Company Presentation is not a sales presentation. It's totally different thing. They are totally different things, and today's agenda is filled about presentations. What kind of materials are needed in sales meetings to support salespeople? What kind of decks are winning sales decks, and about the role of presentation as a buyer, how buyers are thinking about presentation, and techniques for increasing the interaction during a sales pitch. I'm Paulus Perkkiö. I'm CEO and the founder of Seidat, and I have experience of sales more than 20 years, and mostly I have been selling professional services, consulting services, and of course software now in Seidat several years. And I'm here together with Tim. Welcome, Tim.
Hello everyone, my name is Tim Babkin, and thank you, Paulus, for a small introduction. And yeah, I'm taking the role of international sales manager at Seidat, and same as Paulus, we are selling basically actually solution for yourselves to help you to succeed in the modern B2B sales world. Yeah, I have maybe not so typical background. Actually, I have background in professional sports. I used to be a professional basketball player, and that's how I ended up to be in Finland 12 years ago, and now I'm taking care of SaaS sales. In addition to sales, I have background in psychology, so I also understand actually interaction between sales and people and customer, not only just on the way of business, but also what they think about you as a company or us as a company during the meeting, how to make effect, some good effect, like from the early beginning, how to build trust from the early beginning. So this is like something what I also know from my educational background. But yeah, maybe not so much about us anymore, but more about how to help you succeed with your sales presentations. So go on, Paulus.
Thank you, Tim. I must also say that we have chat all the time open. Tim can write something there so that you can find it, but please send any comments, questions all the time, because it's important that we have some interaction between you and us, so it's more interesting for every one of us. If you have something to ask, then please do not hesitate to ask that. Whenever we are discussing about sales presentations, company presentations on any level, I think it's very important to start with the question, what sales mean in reality? What is sales? And for me, sales is problem solving. We have customers who has something in their mind. They have a problem, they have needs, they want to change something. And the salesman's role is to help them to make that change happening. And typically, it means that there is some kind of meeting. It can be virtual or face-to-face. And one of the biggest challenges in those meetings is to understand those needs which the customer has. For me, sales is also all the time, it's customer service, highest level of that. And there is typically some kind of process which starts from something. It can be lead generation in inbound sales, and in the end there is hopefully some kind of contract signing so that you will get a winning sales deal. And how I see sales, it means that you must have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So that I think this listening is a really important part of the whole conversation. It's not presenting. for me. And of course, if you think about sales from that point of view, it's always a good question. Should I prefer the quality or quantity? What is your opinion, Tim, actually? Quality or quantity?
Absolutely quality. It definitely beats quantity, I think, not only in sales, but in whatever situation in our life.
Yeah, of course, the quality is really important, but without any quantity, without any activity, there is no need for quality. So there's no exactly right answer. But yes, I have now introduced a little bit about sales. How you would say about how people are using presentations typically in sales meetings?
I think for quite many companies, presentation means like when I talk with customers, I think, okay, presentation is actually something what you share during the meeting. And of course, it's partly right, but I believe it's like quite much about the exchange of the information. So basically information flow, communication between people. And I think in quite many ways, we stick to the saying that like we actually not selling, but we are pitching or we are presenting. And it's not always a fault of the salesperson, but it's quite often actually fault of the tool what supports you in this building of your communication. What does it mean? So basically, you quite often you have like how it was said before, PowerPoints, right? So like which means it's actually it's like some slide deck, which has like certain structure. It's usually linear, and basically you kind of design it your goal slide by slide. So what does it mean? So you're pitching, you're not selling. And this is like, in my opinion, is quite a bad thing, because like as Paulus mentioned, sales is quite much of communication. So your presentation, your meeting shouldn't be built around the presentation. Your meeting should be built around the customer, around like basically interaction with the customer. So which means that you have to be ready for whatever question from your customer. You have to be very adaptable and flexible about that. But like nowadays, I believe everyone faced on during the meeting such things that like when you actually have linear presentation that you're going slide by slide, and then you're like telling maybe customer has some question in the middle of your pitch, and you tell like, yeah, like there will be slide on that later, right? I believe everyone can relate to that. So you're not so adaptive to your sales flow, to the meeting flow, because you're not ready to address that question, because your slide addressing this question is like number maybe 21, and it's not so easy to go like jump from one slide to another one. Or like you also when you customer ask some question, you're like, hey, wait a sec, I have to find this slide, and you're kind of listing 15 slides left and some 10 slides right, and you can't find this relevant slide, and you're okay, it seems that this slide is in another deck. I believe like any one of us here has this type of situation in your life, and it's kind of feels like pretty uncomfortable in my opinion. And like, believe me, it's in opinion of your customer, it feels like a small fail. And like when especially you're kind of failing with it in beginning, it makes it like really kind of, it impacts your result is quite bad, because like first impression is very important. It doesn't mean like do we meet customer or we meet someone who we like, or like whatever, like we are getting some first impression. It's so important in like to succeed in the end of like basically what we are doing. So it's also about the way. Paulus, what is your biggest challenge in sales meetings? Are you asking me or customer or our people here?
I'm asking from our audience.
Okay,
so it's a good question for everyone to think about.
Yeah, I think like there are quite many, and I would be also quite curious to know like what their challenges. But I think it's also one kind of one other problem, especially like nowadays, and especially when we think about kind of when we have some sort of maybe kind of bigger deals, when we have actually enterprise sales, when you can have like your cross-functional sales team, and then it means that you have to be like very you have to collaborate in your team on using your materials. And again, it shouldn't be pitch. You shouldn't be say, hey John, you're gonna change slides today, and hey John, could you show me the slides about feature ABC? You have to be able to be very adaptive and be able to collaborate. And it quite much comes from actually the tools what you use. Okay, like we have some comments here.
Yeah, there is one is filtering out the time wasters. What is the biggest challenge was the question. And then sales reps getting on rails, not adapting to the customer needs in the meetings.
I think like filtering out the time waster is quite an important part, because like sometimes you're with wrong people on the meeting. And when you stick to your pitch deck, you can't actually even find out this, because you are not so adaptive. You can't support your conversation with relevant, maybe even slides, like to open up like what's the role of this person in front of you, or this person is doing what the person is responsible for. So this is like where your material has also to support you. That's why it's not just about your company deck, but your presentation should contain information and some graphical material what will help you to understand your customer better. Like what will help you to ask questions, maybe what will push your customer to give right questions about your product, and like will actually find out is the right person in front of you. So maybe kind of this is somehow can answer your question. What sales reps getting on rails, not adapting to the customer needs in the meeting? Exactly, absolutely like that. So I think it's quite often happens when you actually pitching, because you're not flexible. It's like your same pitch for everyone, whatever role in front of you. Like, is it some financial guy, or is it CEO, is it leadership, or is it some actual executor? So like who is kind of making some like making basically have some role, or is it some person who actually leading the team? You have to like basically run sales differently. You have to use different slides, different argumentation. So it's very important to be very adaptive. So Paulus, like what thoughts you have on that?
Maybe I can answer to that question in my next part when I go through more details with the differences between company deck and sales deck.
Okay. So should we jump to next question? So which is actually what is a company presentation and what is sales presentation?
We can do that. We can do that. And how I see it, how I see that difference is that typically, if I think what kind of presentations are company presentation, it can start from, for example, with this kind of mission as we are using. There is something what is sales about, and then maybe you present something about your product, how good it is, and then you go to your references and you tell that you are so big in Europe and in the globally, and you have achieved this and that kind of numbers, and you have this amount of people in these roles. Your organizational map looks like this. This is, I think, typical content in company presentations. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
And if you think about sales presentation, then what should be sales presentation? Of course, it's typically have this kind of introduction that what kind of product you are selling, what kind of features it may have. About, for example, in our case, we tell that, okay, when you open the presentation or your customer will open it, you will get the notification. Of course, it's a good way to give some introduction and tell about, for example, matrix structure, which gives you many opportunities to interact with your customer. But what I see is really important in sales presentation. As a tool for salesperson, great sales presentation is supporting the salesman, and it allows the interaction, and it should have, or I recommend to include those presentations some way, some kind of need clarification part, where you have, for example, direct questions which you can discuss with your customer. We are discussing typically this kind of topics. I can have, for example, this kind of slide on what kind of challenges you have in sales, and there are some options. I never read them to my customer, but when I open this slide and ask the question, the customer maybe reads it and they give some answer. Maybe those options there will help them to think about that. Okay, cross sales, yes, we have acquired new company and there were several new products, and this cross sales is the biggest problem in our sales at the moment. Or we discuss about materials, how they can use them in sales. We may discuss about goals and so on. And at the same time, I maybe have this kind of slides which support me to have that high level discussion. Of course, then maybe I will give some information about some insight from researches, how important it is that salespeople have good materials. I maybe in later steps of the sales process, when I'm selling some kind of product, I will tell about the onboarding, how it goes step by step. Of course, there is time when we must discuss about the pricing, and we use some kind of can use calculators and so on during the presentation. Of course, it's important to discuss about references. Typically, customers are asking. How I see the sales deck must be built that way that it helps the sales representative to answer those. It has ready arguments for most of the questions which typically customers has, and it helps the sales rep to have this conversation about customer needs, and then when they know, it helps them to offer or present the solution, how the problem can be solved, why we are the best possible partner for you to solve that problem, offer this product to you, how the process will go, and references next steps. It can be built like an ideal sales meeting should be built. It can have same structure, but it depends on how. Of course, I have been in several kind of meetings where the waiting, what customers are waiting for the meeting, they varies very lot, and because of that, I must select different kind of tactics in a meeting to achieve my goal.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, Paulus. And I think like in reality, of course, like like as a salesperson, you have to lead your customer like on the way how it's best to kind of buy maybe your service. Yeah. But anyway, you can't put it, like train to the rails and kind of go just according to that. You have to be ready that your customer will actually has maybe something else you didn't discover earlier, maybe some different problems, or maybe something what you're explaining is not exactly relevant, and you have to actually identify that and be able to change your tactic. And also like to be like very adaptive, and you have to adapt to your customer, because like this meeting is actually about customer. It's not about you, like you're so great service and you're like, we have so great references and so on. Like maybe customer doesn't care about your references. So like, why should you kind of like be very, like spend too much time on that? So you have to be really adaptive, and you have to be ready for whatever question from your customer, because when you're able to address that question, your customer will feel, okay, well, these guys like they're ready for whatever questions, that even their like presentation has whatever answer. So like they really know us, I mean like as like you always try to contact ICP. So like they really know how to serve us. They know our needs, because every kind of slide is actually so relevant to us. So this is like what you have to give the impression to your customer, that even like your presentation is so relevant. Like not only kind of the conversation, but even like everything is like so like it's so easy not to just, it's not make sales easy, but it's makes buying process easier. And I believe like this, your ultimate goal is to enable that that your customer can buy easier your service, product, whatever it could be. So I think this is like when sales presentations or sales materials play a key role in that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think also that, as you said, the company presentation, running your achievements and many numbers and histories and that kind of things, it's done for CEOs typically. It's very useful when someone is visiting to your company or your factory or wherever.
Or investor.
Yeah. Or someone is trying to sell you something and you want to present that we are this kind of company shortly. It's very useful and there is need for that. But in sales, sales presentation is not about what we are. It should be something about what we can offer to you. It's about tool to have a good conversation about needs and how we can solve them.
Absolutely.
How you think how you should use presentation in those steps of different steps of the sales process? How do you use what kind of different kind of sales presentations you use typically?
Yeah, well, in my case, I have a sales presentation which is actually ready like for like what I can use for every step in my sales process. But it doesn't mean that I have to actually invest so much of my time to create a totally different decks. In quite many ways, actually, I'm reusing same slides from step to step by just kind of mixing and adding something new to the presentation. So basically from lead generation, when I'm contacting customer on LinkedIn, or not customer, prospect on that stage, and I'm trying to catch the interest of the customer, and I'm setting some short intro presentation, explaining what is like it's about, like trying to emphasize some pain points what they might have, and actually from the interest to book meeting. So this is my ultimate goal when I'm kind of making some outreach, for example, on LinkedIn. So once like meeting is booked, and thanks God, our presentations can even help you to book the meeting because you can do it directly in the presentation material via the calendar link that can be embedded to your material. For example, that looks like that, and it can be just like, for example, last slide of your intro deck. So if customer likes, so it's not just kind of customer has to click link and go somewhere. So you can just directly like basically book meeting with me just from my calendar. And then when I go to the meeting, I usually don't prepare my presentation to the meeting. And that's now people will say, whoa, come on, like you have to be prepared to every customer. But the reality is that my presentation is prepared for every customer. But I don't have to invest my time into that before the meeting because my presentation contains all the slides which are relevant for whatever role, whatever industry, whatever it's like size of company, whatever geography, whatever questions they will ask. Is it technical question, or is it a concept question, or is it like reference question, whatever question. So my presentation, and you say, okay, like, come on, 100 slides probably, like you have to use all your master deck. But yeah, it's actually possible, like not with every tool, but for example, we say that it is possible. So I'm able to move very adaptively from slide to slide and build my conversation around the customer, not around my deck. And basically, like when sales meeting is over, customers usually ask, okay, Tim, could you please share, like, or can we use the same presentation, like to talk internally and so on? I say no, because like my presentation contains 100 slides, so you're not gonna watch them, and so much is irrelevant for you. So I will send to you sponsor letter. So basically, I'm creating presentation from slides, which are actually like some slides what customers saw, plus adding some summary of the meeting. And this is very important. Add always summary of the meeting. Why? Because especially if you have a bit bigger deals and you want that maybe there is different stakeholders will join the buying process from side of your customer, they want to be aware of what have been discussed before. So when you add some kind of slides, like with some notes about the meeting, it will help you to shorten your sales process, which means that you help to communicate what happened before, what like some John and Evelina and like Jessica were interested what you discussed with them before, so that new stakeholder who joins the process, new decision maker, can really be can enter the discussion much easier. So it's like very important to add some notes from the meeting. And like what is also important, not to create many versions of your presentations. Why it is so? When you send PDF to your customer, it's like a present. You give it and you don't have any control on over like what's happening after that. Did they open it or did they didn't open? Or if you send in several versions of your materials, is customer viewing the latest version of your material? Or like what version they like, you have no control over that. But with proper presentation, sales presentation software, for example, like I said, could be Seidat, and if it would be interesting for you, you're able to create just one link. So all your materials 100% updated always, because it's located in cloud, and you can always actually like modify your presentation from step to step, add relevant and remove irrelevant information. Then, of course, we are moving forward and we are going to proposal, which is also I'm sending like as a presentation, and it's very visual. So my proposal doesn't include only slides with terms and conditions and stuff like that, but they also include some visual information, which actually still helps me to sell. And what is important, like Paulus mentioned, that I always have notification. So once customer opens my material, I am receiving immediately notification to my email. So I know immediately when is the right time to follow up. So which means that it's very important information. And you might say, okay, well, but I can see in my HubSpot when my email was open. Yeah, but what if you send that link, for example, to your material on LinkedIn or WhatsApp or SMS? So this is like very important to be able, like, doesn't matter where, to be able to know that. And once you get notification, you actually immediately know when it's right time to follow up. Or sometimes, like as to everyone happens, my deal got lost. So I market lost customer said, I don't have budget. But when I have notification, even if customer will kind of get budget like some, half year later, and will get back to my material, I will get notification about it. So what I will do, I will pick up the phone and call to my customer in half hour and say, hey, Jessica, like, is it good time to continue our conversation? And Jessica, oh, so nice. Like, kind of actually got budget and we have resources. So we can continue our discussion. So this is like very, very like simple, but very effective feature that helps me to even pick up my old lost deals. So, and basically up to the closing the deal, which I also can do with e-signature, and my commercial offer will be still selling because it will be very visual presentation. It has same effect as the first, like some sales presentation, what you share to your customer. And it will still be a legal document that can be kind of kept and stored in your, like by your accounting team or financial, and can be signed easily. And it will be a very different experience for your customer. And especially if you're a tech company, as I believe quite many of you here, like you're from tech companies, it is very important to make great impression, like, because like you're selling something advanced, technically really great, and you want to communicate that you're technically advanced, you're very modern tool. So when you send PowerPoints, like doesn't communicate that. You like even kind of the software what you use should kind of be create wow effect to your customer, and that's like where, for example, say that could be a good tool for you. So yeah, this is the way how do I use. So Paulus, do you have something to add? Maybe you have something like you remember something I didn't mention. So what's your feeling?
I think the most important thing is that there are several steps during the process where we use presentations differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there are something which can be prepared beforehand, and then there are presentations which will be tailored to from customer to customer. And yeah, that's they are all sales presentations.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like very important part is personalizing your material. Of course, like nowadays, your customer expect from you personal approach or personalized approach. You can't just like be so kind of generic, send some templates without any personalization. And of course, like usually it takes some time to make that personalization. Like if you use just presentation platforms, but like when you use some tools which are more advanced, that it can save a lot of your time, because you can easily reuse something what was created before for other customer, which is maybe similar to that one. And that's kind of like what could make efficiency of your routines with presentations much better.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but like if to go a bit more forward, what actually makes a good sales presentation, Paulus, in your opinion? When not kind of thinking about like how you use materials, but what actually good sales presentation is?
It's good question. It's good question. I think we have partly answered to that already, but I believe that the most important thing is, of course, the structure and the content. What kind of content you have in that your presentation and how you have structured it. Typically, for example, what we recommend as a basic template for all kind of sales presentations is that there is an introduction part in the early beginning, so that where you it's the way which it must include the content which helps you to warm up the discussion, build on trust on some level, so that you can continue to more detailed discussion what are the needs. Because if you don't have good conversation as early as possible, it means that you can't build the trust, and before you have built the trust on certain level, you can't find the real needs what your customer has. Then we recommend typically that there must be something about the problem description, how the problem can be solved on overall level, and then you can maybe describe how you will solve it, why the customer should buy from you, and then those references and processes. So the structure you must build the structure so that it's like an ideal process for the sales meeting. And I think it's one of the biggest themes in building good sales presentation. Of course, it's very important. There are many tricks that about the visual identity, that all the slides must look a little bit same. Of course, like we have in this presentation, we use same colors, same kind of images. You must follow your visual identity guidelines, use enough contrast on your slides, and logical way of use typefaces and images and layouts. All those are really important thing to get good first impact and keep the quality on high level. But without good structure and content, it's not possible. But what I see that what is the biggest challenge actually in building this presentation, I think it's the organization itself and the way how sales presentations are built in reality. And from that point of view, I think that if you think about your organization, and there are marketing and branding communication people, there are product managers, there are people who are responsible to develop your sales concept and process and tools, and there are sales people, maybe different teams. It can be business verticals, or however you have done those teams. But if you think about all those people, they are joining to this process of creating sales presentations, sales decks. And how it happens, typically it happens so that marketing people, they are responsible to develop those templates and maybe on those company slides. Then comes product managers or people who are responsible to tell about your product, about your offering. Then comes sales teams, for example, who are tailoring that offer to the segment where they are selling. Are you selling to building industry or accounting companies or marketing agencies? The story is a little bit different. Product can be same, not typically, but it is possible. But then comes sales people, and they tailor the presentation based on from customer to customer. They will create different kind of slides, and this is the way how typically this complex organization is building those presentations. And I think this is huge challenge without the system which is supporting you to build this kind of presentations. I did this questionnaire in chat that how many slides you have in your sales deck. Tim said that more than 100. I would say that at least 150. And I can't spell your name. Graham Harker. Less than 10. And I immediately see that there is a different kind of philosophy how to use presentations. If you have less than 10, then you are using that presentation deck only in certain phase of your sales meeting, and or you are using it also only after the meeting, sending some like a memo. And but well, it's good question. What is the reason for that? I can remember easily one meeting where I met one sales team, and in the beginning of the meeting, one of those team members said to me that I don't understand why we are sitting in this meeting. We are discussing about presentations. We don't have any time to present in a meeting, in a sales meeting. We don't have time for presenting. What I answered, I said that you must, if you present something, you must stop it. Never ever present anything to your customers. Then we started to discuss about this structure of sales presentation and how it can be used in different situations. And in the end of the meeting, he said that we need Seidat because of this matrix structure where he can navigate based on the discussion what they have with customer.
Yeah, and it's not only about like online meetings, like especially like nowadays, like COVID was era of remote sales, but now it's era of hybrid sales. Like you have situations, especially like again, we're talking about enterprise sales, when you have to meet your customer face to face. And it's also like how actually adaptive you are like to the situation. Are you ready actually, or do you have technical problems or so on? So, but it's still like, again, you don't have to build your meeting around presentation. Presentation is only to support your communication, to help you to kind of communicate what you want to, kind of that your customer will understand, learn about you, about your offering and so on. So it's only supportive material. And that's why it's important, because like people have different, like every person has different way of learning. Some people like they learn very well, understand by hearing. Some people are very good by seeing. Some people need to try. Some like, so basically there are several types of people like by kind of learning like whatever information. So I believe like it's the most effective way, because you don't know every time who is in front of you, but you have to be very kind of, you have to actually affect all these four type of people in the same meeting. Kind of, I mean, like your materials, your conversation, your meeting should basically include all these types. So conversation to hear, also maybe to read some data, maybe even like if you have like some SaaS tool, like even to give to try to show some demo, you have to combine all this, and this is where the key to success in your sales process. So basically to establish really great communication with your customer. And that's like why you actually have to use presentation materials, because you don't know, maybe the person in front of you is not really good listener. So then like just conversation wouldn't be enough.
Yeah, and I think that this is also very important thing, that presentation should not be like it should not be exactly same today and tomorrow. You should develop the presentation all the time as you are developing your sales concept. If you stop developing your sales concept, it's I don't believe that it's a good thing, because there is always competition and someone will run those meetings much better way than you are doing if you don't develop it actively.
Yeah, I agree. Like as everything develops, so sales as well. I think like sales probably should be the fastest, especially like nowadays when we have so much of technology to help us to make our sales more effective and efficient. So like this technology was done for some reason. So like using it right, it can help and can really bring you big benefits.
Yeah, and I really recommend you to ask now any questions. Write some comments if you have any.
Yeah,
Chat is open all the time.
yeah, maybe we didn't cover something, or you had some question before the meeting, what you wanted to kind of know, like please.
Yeah.
And as worse question is better. So
Yeah.
really, we are prepared for it. So please.
But Tim,
Yeah.
what if you don't have any good sales presentation? What then?
Well, what is bad sales presentation? I think it's actually creates several problems. It's like, first of all, dissatisfaction. Like I'm meeting quite a lot of people who are like dissatisfied with their current sales material. So like even kind of if you think about salespeople, your sales leader, you want to give to your team really great sales tools, right? Like is it prospecting tool or whatever it is, like some maybe even devices. So why you think that presentation, which is basically the key sales instrument, should be just like, you know, something what you shouldn't really take care of, because like it brings dissatisfaction to salespeople, but also to customer. This is very important to help customer to buy, which means it should be like really informative. It should help customer to understand you. So that's why it's really important, because like it's again, like as I mentioned earlier, sales presentation will be one of the first things your customer will see from you as a company. That's why it should be really kind of top-notch sales instrument, not just a presentation. It's sales instrument. So also extra work. If your presentation is not so good, and you don't really have good kind of concept of usage of your materials and don't have proper software, you spend too much of time on that. I believe like every one of us will agree here that you are much better in selling than in creating presentations. So that means that like you have to like really make it very efficient. You have to spend as less time possible for materials, but still have them like really good, informative, and powerful. So when you have proper materials, when you have everything ready, so it will eliminate all this unnecessary hassle with your presentation. And of course, like if your presentation are not really impressive, not kind of like not informative enough, doesn't bring kind of extra value for your customer in understanding what you're selling, you will lose your deal. It will be lost business, and it affects the whole organization. And it's not affect only your, but you also affect your customer who wastes time communicating with you. So that's why it's like really important to have it as a proper sales instrument to win the business and actually make happy not only your leadership and your like colleagues, but also your customer. So that's why proper sales presentations are or sales materials are very important on every stage of your sales process.
Exactly.
Do you have something to add to that, Paulus?
I totally agree what you said, and I really believe that bad sales presentation is killing the motivation, and it's not helping sales leaders to lead their teams. And the better materials you develop, the easier it will be to you to lead your team.
Yeah, it's quite much about leadership. I agree. Like it's really like also how you on board. Are you helping? Like actually, like is it easy for your new salespeople to use your materials? This is very important. Or like if you have bad materials, it means that they will start to deliver you results much later. So actually, with good sales materials, you are enabling for your new hires to bring results faster. And like I believe everyone will agree that's important for every business. So that's why I try to keep it like really good.
Yeah.
Okay, like any questions, please ask. We still have around 10 minutes, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Please use these opportunities.
Maybe I shortly introduce also Seidat, because because we are organizing this meet session, and we are building sales presentation platform. It's our tool, and of course we have been using Seidat during the whole webinar. We have built this presentation using our platform. We are now presenting it. We can share it afterwards to you. We can analyze. We see immediately how many has seen that, and we can embed also some e-signature features if needed. It can be used with any device, and the idea is that it's cloud-based. You have all materials in one place, and one of the biggest advantages is the structure. We have, as I showed you this structure of the sales presentation. It's like a matrix, but in our platform, it's really possible to build this kind of matrix presentation, and then we have great presenter views where you can see the whole presentation by one view, and you can click it in the order which you want in your sales meeting. It's also integrated to CRM so that there is place for writing to notes, and those notes will jump immediately to your CRM tool if you have integrated it. So we have integrations to many kind of platforms, several CRMs. We have integrations to social media so that the presentation can be trigger for remarketing. We have integrations for all kind of marketing analytics tools. So we are combining, we are making it much easier for you to collaborate between sales and marketing teams. And of course, we have several ways which help you to keep the presentation always up to date, from brand point of view, from image point of view, and there are smart slides. You must only update the present one slide, and it can update at the same by one run thousands of presentations. We have, for example, some slides which are in nearly 6,000 presentations, and it's easy to update them by one run. That's why we are discussing about, and we want to have this kind of webinars about sales presentations, because it's in the heart of our business. There is a question also, how does a webinar presentation differ from a sales presentation? Tim, do you want to start?
Okay, you throw me the hard one under the tray. Yeah, of course, like absolutely that like there is quite many differences, and maybe in in this webinar you heard quite much about Seidat, but it doesn't matter will you use Seidat or not. Like it's not about selling to you now, right here, right now, but like if you will make your presentations very informative, very kind of like especially meeting presentation will differ from your company presentation, company deck. It will help you to sell. Like you can use whatever platform you like for it, but please like don't stick to pitching. This is like very important. Don't pitch, but like really build conversation, and don't use your material as a kind of core of your meeting. Build your conversation like around your customer. I think this is kind of quite important, regardless what tool you use. Maybe some tools will make it more effective or more efficient, but you can basically do it with whatever. You can like if you're in front of your customer, you can even print it out. Just give right pictures to your customer on the right time. So I think it's quite much about make it around customer. Use some slides which are not only about your product, but what will lead your conversation to right direction. So this is kind of quite important, regardless of the tool what you use. I hope, Michael, I answered. So maybe
Yeah,
Paulus has something to add.
I can continue a little bit. Technically, I don't see there any differences. Technically, it can be exactly same kind of presentation deck, but I see there a big difference from that point of view that I can't never in sales meeting create a schedule for me on minute level. Where should I be, for example? Because I'm trying to have a discussion with my customer, and you never know how it goes beforehand. But in webinar, when we have decided that we will go through this and this step, we can exactly decide beforehand in what order we will go these topics, and how much we will use time for this and that theme. I think this is biggest difference, that you can decide exactly how the webinar you will run the webinar, but I can't at least decide exactly how I will run the sales meeting. Of course, I can have an agenda, but I never know beforehand what kind of things and thoughts my customers has.
Yeah, absolutely, that's right. Yeah, Michael, do you have more questions?
More questions? If I start to summarize at the same time the discussion which we have had together with Tim, is that I see it so that the idea of the sales deck is to support interaction. It's not for presenting. And I think it's the biggest difference between company presentation and sales presentation itself. And I would also recommend that select the technology which supports you to interact in meetings, so that you can adapt to your customer needs and the discussion what you have, so that it's a real conversation. And third topic is that when you build the content to your presentation, concentrate on benefits, not on features or your company. I think those are the most important things when you build sales presentations. What would you add, Tim?
Oh well, I think it's you covered it pretty well, and I think it's yeah. Anyway, it's like meeting should be about customer. I think I told it 25 times already, but this is kind of quite important. And your presentations should serve customer and provide the best learning experience. It's like it's kind of educating, like you're educating about your product. As better customer will understand you, as much more likely customer will buy. So that's why I try to be like 10 slides. It's a great presentation, maybe short, but like, are you sure that actually customer will understand everything? And does it support, like we had question before, like, is it kind of right person in front of you? So probably it will not help you to understand that like also. or not in every case at least. So yeah, you have to be like very flexible, adaptive, and try to affect all the learning types of people. So this is kind of maybe what I would add to this.
And if you don't have that kind of great presentations, we can be your partner. We have this platform which can help you to create better sales presentations and run them. We have also services which can support you to build better presentations itself, presentation from design point of view, from content point of view, from the structure point of view. And of course, we can have trainings to train your salespeople. So it's a full package what we can offer to you.
Yeah, but I think last call for questions, and maybe then we finalize our webinar. So we have a couple of minutes left. So if you still, maybe Bjorn, like you have some questions. So sorry to throw you under the train. So yeah, but if you have, like, you'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, but when people are writing the questions, then I still, in the end of this webinar, recommend you to follow our social media channels in LinkedIn, in Instagram, and on our website there is you have found the Seidat Academy. We will publish the new webinars every second week, and if you want to discuss more details, there you can find also, for example, Teams, calendar, book a meeting. It's very easy to find time together with Tim.
Yeah, and if you have any, like, doesn't matter about Seidat or not, but if you want to talk about sales and sales presentations, I will be happy to give some tips and ideas. So reach me out on LinkedIn, and I will post it once again here for people who joined later. So please.
Yes, and we have recorded this webinar. We will share it to you, and you can share it to your colleagues and friends who you think that needs the same information what we have shared here. So I'm happy. It has been really nice to be here together with you, Tim, and I really hope that you have got some ideas, and I hope that you will have really successful winter and springtime in your sales, and of course we hope that you will reach new records.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.